What's up, what's up, what's up? Thank you guys for tuning in to Keeping It Real with Millie Mill. I really appreciate all the love and support that I've gotten. I am here to bring you guys a good subject today, more sensitive subject. Some of you may be experiencing with this upcoming Christmas holiday going on, and that is the emotion and the feeling of guilt. Now, let me give you a PSA before we start. I'm not a licensed professional. I'm just simply giving you guys information that can hopefully help you guys navigate through this season and get through it with more of a ease of mind. So let's get into it. So when we talk about guilt, let's first talk about defining guilt. At its core, guilt is a feeling that we've done something wrong or that we have failed to meet our own standards. It can arise when we hurt someone, break our values, or even fail our own expectations, whether it was set by ourselves or set by others. But what makes guilt so complex? It's not just about the acknowledgement of wrongdoing. It's tied to our sense of morality, our sense of self-worth, our relationships with others. When we feel guilty, we often believe that we've not only done something wrong or done something bad, but that we're bad as well. So why do we feel guilt in the first place? Let's first dive into that. What is the purpose of guilt? Evolutionary guilt has played an important role in survival. Early humans who felt guilty when they acted in ways that harmed the group were more likely to correct their behavior. This helped maintain social bonds and contributed to the cohesion of the group. In modern times, guilt serves as a similar function. It keeps us in check, nudging us to act in ways that align with our ethical beliefs, with our social norms. Without guilt, we might have trouble identifying when we are wrong, when we've wronged others. And also we wouldn't feel motivated if we to make amends or to apologize if we didn't feel some form of guilt. A lot of times people who don't apologize a lot of times don't feel guilty, and I don't know why they don't have that emotion, but that is something too we would love to explore. There are different types of guilt that we can feel. Now we can break down a few types of guilt. Healthy guilt. Healthy guilt is the kind of guilt that makes us grow. It's when we feel guilty after making a mistake and we are motivated to do better next time. Say for instance, like if you failed a test that you know you should have studied for, or if you know you shouldn't have you should have, as a teenager or as a kid, you should have been home before you got there, or you just failed to do something being lazy. You know, that's the healthy guilt. So, you know, it's many different type of ways. It's often, you know, when we make a mistake, after motivates us to do healthy guilt leads to reflection, it leads to improvement, it leads to empathy. It's the voice that says, hey, I can handle that better. Healthy guilt is typically short-lived and it is constructive. So that is a good form of guilt. Toxic guilt is the next subject. Now, we all know what toxic is. It's been a word that's been going on in our society for a long time, or in the more recent few years, that there's a lot of toxic people around us. And I don't like the toxicity of people around us, but let's explore what toxic guilt is. Toxic guilt, on the other hand, goes a step too far. It doesn't motivate, or it doesn't give you the motivation to make a positive change. Instead, it leads to self-punishment and shame. This kind of guilt happens when you feel like, you know, there's just like no hope and there's nothing more you can do, and you just can continue to harp on your mistakes. Sometimes we over apologize or even begin to believe that our unworthiness or forgiveness or happiness, actually I should say, we believe that we are unworthy of forgiveness and we are unworthy of happiness. Toxic guilt can create a cycle of negativity, and it can be hard to escape from. It can be hard to get you out of that mental funk that we want to get out of. A lot of people don't like to admit it, but it happens, and sometimes we just have to shake it off and keep it pushing. Another form of guilt is guilt by association. This is when you feel guilty because someone else did something wrong, even if you weren't directly involved. For example, if there was a friend that had a bad decision, you might feel guilty for not having done more to prevent it. This kind of guilt can be especially tricky because it often has no real basis, but it can be emotionally draining. So, like, if you know a friend of yours did something that can harm them, and you feel like you didn't do more, you can start to harp on that type of situation. I had a situation, and I'm not going to go too much in depth with it, but there was a friend of mine that I listened to. I tried to advise, I counseled, I did everything to help them. And again, like I said, I'm not a licensed professional. Long story short, that person did end up hurting themselves. And for a long time, I felt guilt, like, what else could I do? Why didn't I do more? And I had to finally come to the realization, like, I did all I can do. I gave all that I can give. I can't make anyone feel like, they are going to, I can't make anyone change their mind what they already wanted to do, so okay. So now we want to discuss what is the impact of guilt on our mental health. Now let's look how guilt affects our mental health. When we hold on to guilt too long, it can contribute to our feelings of anxiety, of depression, of self-esteem. Also, consistently revisiting our mistakes can lead to overthinking, which deepens the emotional pain. In fact, guilt and shame are often intertwined, and when we feel like we failed in some way, we often failed in some way, or our self-worth is not there, then we often are hit even harder. But there's good news. Guilt, like any emotion, can be managed. It doesn't have to control your life. So let's look at ways on how we can overcome guilt without making it affect your life. So how do we move past guilt? When it starts to weigh in on us or weigh us down, these are a few steps that we can do to help get past the guilt. First of all, we can acknowledge it. Acknowledge what is making you feel guilty. First step is to recognizing that the guilt is there and accepting that you feel guilty. Don't try to suppress it. Feeling guilty is a natural response, but it is important to understand why you feel that way. So kind of navigating yourself. What is making me feel this way? What am I doing or not doing to alleviate this, and why am I feeling guilty? Am I being too hard on myself? Is it something that family or friends are putting pressure on me, or I'm just looking at them and not living up to what their standards are? Then next, we want to take responsibility, but don't overdo it. If you've done something wrong, take responsibility of your actions. Apologize if necessary or if need be, but do not let guilt take over. It is possible to learn from your mistakes without letting them define you. So if everyone makes a mistake, if you name one person who's on this planet, who's ever been on this planet, that did not make a mistake, then, only person I can believe, if you're a Christian, is Jesus Christ, who did make a mistake. But that's not the subject for today. Everyone makes mistakes, and so you can't beat yourself up because you made a mistake and you think it's so catastrophic. Most mistakes you can come back from. Most of them you can dig yourself out of the hole and say, I did it, I'm sorry. And a lot of times it is that easy. And even if you have to apologize to yourself, and that was one of the things that was hardest for me, was learning how to forgive myself and apologize to myself. So when I had to start apologizing to myself, I started having to challenge my thoughts. Sometimes our guilt is based on distorted thinking, or like some people say, stinking thinking. You have to get that stinking thinking out of your mind. Ask yourself, is this guilt justified? Am I really feeling this way because of a certain situation? Or am I just overthinking and being harder on myself than I should be? Have I done everything I can do to make things right or right this wrong? Often, we find that the guilt we feel is more often in internal standards and not the reality of the situation. Like, some people may not even be tripping off of what you're feeling guilty about, but you're eating yourself up because you felt like you did them wrong, or you felt guilty, or you felt like you could do more to help that situation. Next, we're gonna, and I knew this was gonna come in, but we're gonna practice the self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness is so important. It's one of the hardest things we could do, is to forgive ourselves, but it is essential. Remember, we're all human. We all make mistakes. It is part of growth, and it's part of the process of being human. If you don't make a mistake, then how are you going to know what's right? How are you going to know how to do it the right way the next time? Mistakes are learning tools. Leave them as that. If it really starts to become overwhelming, a lot of times I tell people, seek support. Talk to someone who you trust about your guilt. It could be a friend, and I put a pin in it. A lot of times, find that friend who is non-judgmental. So always try to find that friend who you can definitely trust. Always try to find that friend who's going to give you objective advice and not steer them the way that they want you to go, but they're going to actively listen and actively give you advice or steer you to the right person who you should talk to. If it's not a friend, sometimes it could be a clergyman, sometimes it could be a mentor, it can also be a counselor, a teacher, or someone. But sometimes seek support, because we all may need that little bit of nudge or need some assurance that we can get past this thing. After we can seek support, then we can focus on growth. Lastly, view guilt as an opportunity of growth. We can learn from our experiences. How can we do better in the future? How can we not make that same mistake over and over again? By shifting our focus from self-blame to self-improvement, you can transform guilt from a negative force into a catalyst of change and positivity. Before we wrap up, I want to leave with you the thought of guilt is a natural part of being human. But it doesn't have to be, or it doesn't have to define us. It is a signal that we care about it's a signal that we care about our actions and that we impact others the way that we act. So you always kind of do want to be mindful of how you act towards others, but you don't want to overthink the process. But it also sometimes we can manage it and learn from it and grow beyond what you even thought of. So, next time you guys start to feel guilt, next time you guys start to feel any type of way, just sit back and woosah and say, how can I think of a better way to handle this situation? Or is this really that serious for me to feel guilty about? And again, seek support. Talk to people. Talk to someone. The holidays coming. If you can't, like with me and my family, we don't buy gifts. We've stopped doing that years ago, because it takes away of the true meaning to us as a holiday, which is spending time together, which is making the memories that you can never take away. We will buy the younger kids, the younger kids gifts and stuff like that, but it's still not something that is most important in our family. What's most important is the love. The most important is, like Christmas Eve, we are all in the kitchen, we're cooking, we're playing music, we're getting everything ready for Christmas Day, and then just have the fun of the family with Christmas Day without the pressure of, I have to buy everyone a gift, or I have to buy this special gift for someone. Those are materialistic things. And even when I looked at or think about some of the things that I wanted back as a kid so bad for Christmas, I don't even remember where half of that stuff is, or what I did with it, or if it was even barred, or what that item was. So I hope you guys got something from this lesson today, or from this podcast. I love you. You guys have a blessed holiday. I will see you guys next week. Thank you.